Okay, so I think in the interest of everyone's time, we will kick it off so we have enough time to do our voting and to have some good conversation about Stephen's point. Just some housekeeping when we start. We are using Zoom, and we wish that we were able to be there. It's unfortunate that we are having to do this virtually, but also thankful for this technology and the fact that everyone is sort of getting up to speed. So I now actually I work from home, and I have to look more presentable now than I ever did before. So this has actually forced me to shave more and dress better. My name's Alex Pearlstein from Alchemy. Myself and Libby Crimmings are going to be facilitating, and Kate Green, who's also with Alchemy, will be monitoring the chat window. And we ask as we go through this presentation and the voting, if you've got questions, if you got comments, please use the chat feature, and you see it circled there. If you mouse over the bottom of your screen, the toolbar should come up, and all you'd have to do is click on that chat, and you can type whatever you'd like to in the chat, and Kate is going to be monitoring the comments. So we'll be able to address them as we move along, and then at the end of the voting, we'll have some Q&A time where we can address the comments, the questions, and anything else that you would like to speak to. So we are going to be using a software called Poll Everywhere, and we will explain all about how to use it when we get to that point in the presentation. But we think you'll enjoy it, and it's sort of a cool way to provide real-time feedback and to see real-time results. And all of this is going to really feed into the research we're doing and ultimately the strategic plan for Stephen's point. We want to start off by very quickly sort of going over some context. As everyone knows, we are doing strategic planning in the middle of a pandemic. So that provides, certainly challenges, but also enables us to think sort of differently about what the opportunities are in the community. There are some trends that are starting to come into focus that experts think will extend past the end of the pandemic. You're seeing an incredible increase in telework. We're talking about 50 to 60% of employees are working from home. There's talk about dense cities like New York now not necessarily being a preference because people are concerned about proximity and what that means in terms of public health. You're starting to see some consolidations of large firms as this reconfigures the economy. You're just about every day or every other day you see a large chain that goes out of business. So you'll see probably more consolidation in terms of those large employers. And automation, which was sort of a trend prior to COVID, has really been increased at warp speed because employers are not necessarily having those workers on site, and so they're having to think about how can we do work more from an automated perspective. So these consequences, likely will have some negative effects for low-wage workers, especially if your job can be automated. It might increase economic inequality that we've seen building over the last decade or so. But also there might be opportunities for some new types of government intervention to help counteract the effects of automation on workers. So it could also be a time of some experimentation in terms of our federal policy. The work from home trend really seems to be sticking, and I think it's partially because people are enjoying it, at least for the first few months, and companies are not seeing a decline in productivity. So there's been some polling done, and people are now thinking about factoring in work from home opportunities as a component of a factor of the type of work that they want to do and the type of companies they want to work for. I mentioned that COVID is creating challenges, but also the opportunity to sort of think differently about the future. And this is a quote from the New York Times a couple months ago, a professor at Columbia, and he sort of put it into context that, we don't really know what the future will look like post-COVID. We don't necessarily know the jobs that will be created. We don't know what communities necessarily will need to do to be competitive, but it provides sort of a blank canvas for us to be able to make what we want to happen, and just understanding what our constraints are, what our resources are, but it really gives us that opportunity to dream big and dream differently, which we hope this process will have components of that. We're going to ask you to dream big. This is the chance to really push the envelope and think about what Stevens Point's preferred future might look like and what that means in terms of strategies. Very quickly, again, introduce ourselves. We are Alchemy Community Transformations. We are a team of McClure, which is an engineering firm based in Clive, Iowa. And we really are focused on placemaking and economic growth through making places competitive for the type of talent that might be moving. Now that they can work from different locations, they don't necessarily have to be tied to an office. We really think that it's going to open up a lot of opportunities for smaller communities, for rural communities, to attract and retain talent that might be looking for a different quality of life, a more affordable community to live in. So that's really our philosophy, is we are creating action plans that really position smaller communities to be competitive for the jobs of tomorrow. And you know, we tell our communities to think big, because we don't necessarily consider dollars to be the priority challenge to implementing projects. We think that the money is out there. It's ultimately about the leadership that helps drive the community towards believing that you can attain these projects, that you really can reach your visionary future. I see that Greg Wright is in the meeting, and I'll have him explain a little bit about his organization, Create Portage County. Greg, if you're with us. If not, I will gladly speak to the work that Greg does. We're very lucky that Greg has joined our team, provides a local perspective based in Stevens Point. Really kind of started in the arts world, but really is now broadened to think about how small cities, people-centered communities can really drive job growth. So Greg is providing invaluable local perspective throughout this process, and we're really happy to have him on the team. This is the core project team, both Greg and us from Alchemy. Zach Mannheimer is our principal, and we are kind of scattered all over the country. We were kind of pioneering telework before it was a thing. Zach is in Iowa City. I am in Birmingham, Alabama. Greg is in Stevens Point. Libby is in Des Moines, and Kate is in Fairmont, West Virginia. So we bring lots of perspectives from other places to this work. Very briefly going to go over the strategic process. And one of the benefits that we think Stevens Point has, thinking about strategy and thinking about its future, is that you're starting from a position of strength. There are some communities that really look to Stevens Point as an aspirational goal. They would like to have the assets that you have now. So this kind of puts you in the position to think even bigger. So you've got a dynamic community. You've got to focus on environment, wellness, creativity, arts and culture assets, your regional services and retail hub. So we're going to kind of push you towards what's aspirational but attainable, and really trying to determine what a consensus grassroots vision is for this community that can really guide government and guide leadership in terms of the decisions that they make about the community and resources and what projects are prioritized. We have quite an extensive process, starting with stakeholder input, like these visioning sessions. We're going to be doing individual interviews and focus groups with constituencies. So, for example, entrepreneurs, innovators, education and workforce professionals. We've got a survey that's available at the city's website. Sort of in the top left, you can see the link to the survey. We've already had about 1,000 people take it, and that was, kind of our initial target. So we're blowing past the target, and we hope that if you haven't taken it, that you log on to the city's website, take the survey, and recommend it to anyone who you think would like to lend their voice to this process. The feedback that we hear from stakeholders is going to be combined with some data research that we're doing in the office, comparing Stevens Point to some peer communities to get a sense for what the economic and demographic trends have been, but put it in the perspective of what people think about the community, who live there, who work there, who spend their lives there. This will inform what we, or what is determined to be the strategic priorities in the city. These can be projects, these can be programs. This is essentially what you are telling us are going to be the most impactful opportunities that we can focus on through the strategic plan. And then the implementation plan is really taking that vision, taking those priorities, and determining how are we going to make it happen. What is it going to take in terms of resources? Who is going to be leading certain efforts? Who's going to be supporting certain efforts? How long is it going to take? How are we going to measure success? So that is really going to be our process, and we'll be engaged for the next few months in this process, and we're going to have opportunities to engage you all as the public to weigh in on reports and information as it's approved by our steering committee. We've got a group of leaders, public, private, institutional leaders, a diverse group of folks who are stewarding this process for us, who are really sort of coordinating the research and then ultimately what we determine to be the strategic priorities. And they are really, to this point, engaged and representing you, I think, in a very effective way. So with that, I'm going to stop my sharing and hand it over to Libby.
Thank you, Alex.
All right. So now, there we go. I think I did that correctly. We'll see. All right. Hello, everybody. Again, my name is Libby Crimmings. I'm the Vice Principal Community Placemaker at Alchemy Community Transformations, based in tropical, sunny Iowa, Des Moines, Iowa. Some of you may have driven through once or twice. I have family in Racine, Wisconsin, so I'm in Wisconsin quite a bit. Big fan. I think most of the clothing that my son wears is Wisconsin sports related. So as soon as our travel ban is lifted, I cannot wait to come back up and visit and look forward to that day. In the meantime, we're very, very excited about the online participation. And now for the super fun part. Now we get to engage and answer some questions as part of the visioning session. So if everybody could get out your mobile tiny pocket computers, and you can participate via text or through a browser on your cell phone or a browser on your computer. Any of those options will work. You can see on the screen here by text, if you text the words LibbyC171 to the number 22333, you'll get a response like what you see on the screen that says you've joined. You don't have to have a smartphone. You can have a flip phone. You can have a jitterbug. I don't think it's going to work on a rotary phone, but I'd be very impressed if somebody had a rotary phone. If you do it on a browser, on your phone, or on your computer, you'll see a little screen like this, and then you're going to enter the same code, LibbyC171, join. And then it makes it super easy because you're going to have little buttons that you're just going to push and answer as we go through. So I'm going to give everybody a minute here to jump on. If you have questions, you can unmute and ask now, or you can ask in the chat. All right. I can't see the chat. Kate, do we have any questions?
None so far. I did post the link in the chat, so if anybody wants to kind of try to copy and paste it or click on it from there, it should be available.
If you'd rather do it on a browser on your computer, you can click on that and open a separate browser from this Zoom conversation, and you can do it on your computer as well.
And if the Zoom screen is taking up your whole screen, there is a way to minimize it, or you can always just hit escape on your computer, and that should take it out of the full screen mode so that you can access another browser.
Okay, so I'm going to make my Zoom window very small here so I can see the whole screen. Okay, so basically this is going to be live polling. And so if you are doing this via text, when we ask a question, you answer by texting the appropriate corresponding letter to what the answer is. So you'll see over on the right here, A, C, B. We'll get to these in just a second. If you're doing it on a browser, then you're just going to push the button as we go. So let's jump right in with a really easy one. What is your age? So we'll jump right in right now.
And what's great about the software is that it's tied to your IRS account, and so we know if you're telling the truth. I'm kidding.
You can't change your answers. So I'm going to give you just a few more seconds here.
I'm sorry, can I ask a question?
Yes, of course.
Can I use the chat feature in Zoom to give the answer as well?
We would prefer if you did it as a part of this software because then it's all in one place.
I'm actually really lost then on how to do it. Okay, so I don't text.
Okay.
So
if you're on a computer,
I'm on a computer.
go to the chat section of Zoom, the little
Down at the bottom where it says chat.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
On that, and then in the chat, Kate has put the link. If you click on the link, it should open a separate browser.
It should be underlined, and it should start with pollev.com.
Mm-hmm. If you don't see it,
Oh, I see it. So I have to go there in another browser window and put my answers.
Yeah, and it should open up.
And I can do it on this PC right next to me as well. I can go there and do that.
Yeah, and the other option is that you can always just enter your answers in the chat window, and we'll be able to go back and see how you answered.
Okay. If you do it in the chat window, maybe just direct it towards us as a private conversation, so you're not answering the questions for the whole group, if that helps.
Okay.
Did you get it? Do you want us to wait for you?
Just a sec. Okay, so I'll mute myself here, and I'm going there on the other PC. Well,
okay.
It's blocked.
Hey, Mary, so this is Kate. If you want to send me the answers, I'll record those for you.
Do it in chat?
Yeah, I have started a private conversation with you. You should be able to see where there's something that's happening just between the two of us. If you just want to shoot me those answers, I'll log those for you.
So I'm all set just the way it's set up for me right now where it says Alchemy Community.
Yep, you can do that. That'll work. I'm gonna watch for your posts and I'll record those.
Libby, hi, this is Kevin McAdam. I'm on, I texted 22333, but I should be texting you at Libby C171.
So the number you're texting to is 22333. The words that you're going to enter in that text is Libby C171, and that will help. That will connect.
Okay.
Yeah. So the 22333 is essentially the equivalent of a phone number.
Right.
Yep.
I'm going to pause here and just make sure we're all getting connected before we move forward.
Yeah, and please, if anyone is having some difficulties getting connected, please let us know in the chat.
All right.
Kevin, are you able to get into that screen that Libby showed?
I'm actually doing the text, yeah, and I think it'll work, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, pretend like the phone number is that 5 digits.
Yep, I got that.
Okay, then the message.
And then, the message you send to that number is just Libby C171.
And then just with the letter, whatever age I am. Okay.
Correct.
Yes. And then just hit send, or that little arrow that sends the text.
Yep.
it's cool because it's set up to be, you can participate a number of different ways, but it can also be very confusing because we have so many different ways we can participate.
Wow, it gave me back an invalid number on the 22333.
Libby, does your name have to be capitalized? Do you know if lowercase would work? Or?
Oh, I see what I did. So
So you'll see, I hope if you can see that, maybe not. I texted just, there wasn't a difference of capitalization. And then I got a response that says you've joined.
Okay, so Mary, were you able to send your answer to Kate? And
Yeah, we're good, Alex.
okay, awesome.
All right. Did it work, Kevin? Should we keep moving?
no, let's keep going.
Okay.
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So I think we've got this one. And then as another kind of introductory one, just to show you different ways that the screen might look as we answer questions. You could answer your gender.
So it will just be A, B, C, or D.
You can see the corresponding letters at the top. All right. And it's a few more seconds and we're going to move on. All right, now these are kind of our introductory ones as we are testing out how we are comfortable using this software. So if everybody's good, then we're going to start moving here. So the next thing, I figured we could just jump right to the really controversial questions and really kind of get to the heart of like what's really holding Stevens Point back, like what do we need to solve to get going. So I thought we could just jump right in with what's the best soft serve ice cream. This is really important, so everybody make sure you answer.
And unfortunately, if your preference is not one of the two, maybe you can enter it into the chat, but we got insider knowledge that these were probably the best two options.
And I cannot wait to come in person and have a showdown. Uh-oh.
Oh, here comes Carl D.
A for belts, B for Carl D's. All right, wrapping up here. They get your votes in. This is critical knowledge for strategic planning. This is actually just for fun, just again, so we can help get used to the software here. But also I really need to know. Seems like belts. All right, last call. Moving on. Belts it is. Ding, ding, ding. All right, now the next hard-hitting question and the last of our warm-up questions. Best local cheese curds. Now this is going to look differently. So this is an open-ended question. If you're texting, you can text anything you want. I should mention, we do have filters on and the ground rules are to stay appropriate, and inappropriate, offensive, or hurtful language will result in you being booted from the conversation. So you'll see this is an open-ended question, which we will be using quite a bit in the visioning session. And it just looks a little different. And now I'm hungry looking at these giant cheese curds. Oh, boo.
That's okay. I'm not a huge cheese curd person, but I'm from California.
You mean like in a restaurant or bought in a cheese store?
Oh, well, that's a good question. I was thinking of the best cheese curds in a restaurant locally. Like when I come to town, I basically am just using you to make my list that I need to.
Gotcha.
Squeaky cheese will be a different conversation. My husband gets in fights with people all the time about cheese curds versus cheese balls, but.
And Libby, it looks like the size of the word, oh, I thought that.
I do think if multiple people enter it exactly the same, then the word gets bigger, but maybe not.
Because we had a few goos that are separate.
All right, last call for best cheese curds in Stevens Point. And while we're wrapping up here, again, these were our introductory questions. So I want to pause here and make sure that everyone's comfortable before we really jump into the actual questions. Any last difficulties technology-wise? All right, awesome.
Okay.
Good, okay.
So we're filling up our social calendar for our first visit. I like this.
Yes, usually eating is the #1 thing that I have to do anyway. All right, so first real question. How long have you lived in Stevens Point, Portage County? Again, the corresponding letters you can text. Quite a few, more than 10 years. Awesome. Got a few newbies. All right. And if you don't live in Portage County or Stevens Point, that's okay. You can admit it. Sometimes people work in town and we want to hear from you too. Very important part of the questions. All right, a few more seconds here, moving on. All right. What is your home zip code? So this will show up like a word cloud. So if multiple people have the same zip code, then in theory, the technology, it should get bigger. Look at that, it worked. All right, a few more seconds here.
I'm guessing 54481 is the city of Stevens Point.
I want to give opportunities for everybody. All right. Now, here's the fun part. We want to know, from your opinion, from your perspective, what's unique about Stevens Point. So you can type a word, a phrase. You have up to 3 answers that you can submit. And
basically, it registers a submission when you hit send. So it'll let you send 3 times.
So you're trying to attract me to come to Stevens Point, to move to Stevens Point, to accept a job, to come visit. What are the selling points? What's unique?
If I already answered this when I took the survey this morning, should I still do it now?
If you'd like, yeah. It's helpful for the conversation so we can see if multiple people are saying the same things and for conversation. And I should mention we're going to move through these questions, as quickly as possible for time's sake. If you have questions or thoughts or ideas, please, again, you can put them in the chat or you can write them down. And then we'll save the Q&A and the discussion part for the very end. So if people have to jump off, we at least get through all these questions first. Look at this.
Now, I would like to call to everyone's attention that someone has entered Ryan's name as what's unique about Stevens Point. If you see it there on the screen.
There you go, yes.
For the record, that was not me, all right? I am not unique to Stevens Point.
No, we...
All right, good answers. Here we go. Sense of community. I'm just going to read a few out loud here. Green spaces, generosity and caring. Lots of green. I see lots of green space things. Arts and culture community. trails, progressive, river, cultural diversity, small town charm. All right, now the last call is going to be to, if you haven't answered yet, to dig a little deeper and think about what's unique about Stevens Point that I wouldn't be able to find anywhere else in Wisconsin or the Midwest or the country. And again, you have up to 3 answers. Trick question. No such thing.
But again, I think Ryan Karnowski is an applicable answer.
Ryan, I think you just became the mascot.
Oh boy, we're all in trouble now.
All right, last call, everybody. This is a good list. All right. Curling, interesting. Frisbee.
Hmm.
Mix of scenery and art. All right, awesome. Okay, great job. Let's move on to the next one. This is a solid list. All right, now, if anybody can remember back to the beginning of the year, 10 years ago, prior to COVID-19, what do you think was the greatest challenge that Stevens Point was facing? And again, you can answer up to 3 different times.
And this could be in terms of the economy. This could be in terms of, you know, being a resident of Stevens Point. It's all your perspective.
And I should mention that, you know, because you didn't have to create an account to participate in this visioning session, none of this information is tied to your name. This is anonymous. So we do appreciate when people are honest. And if you say something controversial, we won't tell Ryan who it was. Honesty is appreciated so that we can have informed decisions in our planning. All right, prior to COVID-19, what was the greatest challenge facing Stevens Point when thinking about the future, thinking about what you want this community to be and to grow, and where are we going? What are those roadblocks in the way? All right, a little bit more time here. All right, last call. What I personally like about this software is it doesn't call me out when I misspell things in visioning sessions. It doesn't have my name attached to it. All right. Great list, everybody. Okay, let's keep moving. All right. What's missing from Stevens Point? Anything. What are what you get up to 3 answers again. What would you really like to see in Stevens Point? What have you traveled and gone to other places and seen that you think, man, I wish we had that locally? Or where do you, what do you travel to other communities to do, to visit, to participate in? What would you like to see when thinking about the future? What's missing?
If you've got children who have left for another community, they might have said, well, Stevens Point doesn't have this, which I can find somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And you see this is a word cloud, so the number of times the word is used will reflect, be reflected by its size.
And if you entered things that are more than one word and it looks all jumbled on here, don't worry. On the back end, we can decipher all of this, all the answers. Seems like housing is missing. That's shouting at us vertically here.
And affordable horizontally.
There we go. Theater, co-ops, affordable, diversity, shopping, downtown. Good list. Keep going. Young, I assume people. All right. Last call.
Beaches, I like that. There's some things that I don't know that visioning will be able to affect.
Okay. Wow, look at this. We filled up the whole screen. Good job, team. All right, let's keep moving. Excellent list. Okay. All right, how would you rate the overall quality of life in Stevens Point? So again, we talked about people can work remotely now via Zoom and the interwebs. I can pick up and I can move any community I want to because I'm not tied to a place anymore. What's gonna make me pick Stevens Point? Quality of life is very closely connected to that and what people are looking for. So right now, how would you rate the overall quality of life in Stevens Point? High, good, could be better, it's okay, needs improvement, or it's very low? You can only respond once. I do need some background music. All right, I think everybody has their answers in. Looks like it stopped moving. Now, related to quality of life, let's get specific. So what would you like to see to improve the quality of life in Stevens Point? What do you think would move that meter and you're in the higher direction? What would you like to see? And again, I think you get 3 responses. I apologize, I didn't put the number in there. Is it broken or are we all thinking? Okay, there it goes. Good. Think about if you have friends or kids or people that you've tried to tell them how awesome life is in Stevens Point and attract them. What are the sticking points? What are things that you've heard in your experience of living there? What would you like to see that would make it even better? All right, a little bit more time here. All right, last call. Great list. Ooh, a splash pad. That does something. All right, I'm gonna move on here. They just keep rolling in. I don't want to cut it off. Okay, we're gonna go. Ready? Good job. Great list. Oh, one more. More quality parks and green spaces. We're gonna end on that. All right.
And just to note, as Mary mentioned, there is the online survey as well. So if you didn't get all the answers that you wanted to type in, you can still go and take the survey and enter them there.
Correct. All right. So let's talk about downtown. These are some categories we've identified for conversation. What's missing or needs improvements downtown? Up to 3 options. You can text the letters 3 separate times, or you can put them all in one text with at least a space between the letters. Housing, family-friendly activities and places. I need more dining options. I need arts and cultural amenities and events. Parks and green spaces, bikes and pedestrian trails and routes. We need more parking. We need non-student focused entertainment options or something, but it's other, not on this list. A little bit more time here, and then we're going to dig into the specifics. Looks like we'd like to see some downtown housing options, maybe some second stories, or housing options within walking distance of downtown, arts and cultural amenities and events. Seem to be leading the way here with bikes, pedestrian trails, and more entertainment options, not focused towards students. All right, let's move on. Ready? Let's get specific. Uh-oh, wait a minute. Oh, that just stole my thunder. Oh, there we go. Okay. So let's get specific. What would you like to see in downtown? So if you answered other on the previous slide, you can say what was missing from those categories that you'd like to see, or any other ideas that you have. So we talked earlier about what's broadly missing from Stevens Point. Let's think about just the downtown district. What specifically would you like to see?
So it could be types of restaurants, or it could be types of housing. And this is where, you know, you can think big and think about other communities that have something that you think would work great in your downtown.
And again, don't worry if the words look all jumbled. We will sort it out on the back end. But it is helpful if people say the same word, then the word gets bigger. So it is helpful to kind of see the consensus in some of the things. All right, last call. What do you want to see downtown? Feel free to get real specific. Okay. I'm gonna keep moving in the interest of time here. So if you have anything, send it in right now. Okay. And we're gonna move on. Great list. Okay, next category. So we talked about housing a little bit, and it seems to be something that has come up quite a few times. So we'd like to know, have you or someone you know personally struggled to find appropriate housing in Stevens Point? A friend, a family member, a coworker, somebody who was interested in coming for a job, maybe couldn't find something, maybe had to live with somebody else. It's helpful to know. Seems like yes. A few more seconds here. A is yes, B is no, C is not sure. Okay, last call. All right. Now, what do you think are the greatest housing challenges in Stevens Point? So again, you can answer up to 3 times. What are the greatest challenges regarding housing? What would you like to see addressed?
And this could be housing types as well that you think are missing in Stevens Point.
Mm-hmm. All right, a little bit more time here. What are the greatest challenges with housing? I see we have no thoughts on the issue. Seems like we're rolling at a steady clip here, but last call, please. Okay. Again, excellent list. You guys have been practicing. All right. In a word or phrase, what would you like Stevens Point to be known for? As we're thinking about the future and what kind of community you want your community to become, what would you like Stevens Point to be known for? When I say Stevens Point, what do you want people to think of?
What would you put on your billboard?
All right, I think it only lets you answer once this time. If you don't like your answer and you want to redo it, you can type clear and it will delete it if you think of something better. When I tell people I'm going to Stevens Point, Wisconsin, you want them to say, oh yeah, I've heard of that place. I've been there once. Isn't that the place that has, I've heard it's
The
very,
best cheese curds in Wisconsin.
that's gotta be a competitive list. But I can't wait to inspect further. All right, last call for answers here. Nobody has put Ryan's name on, so I guess you're not on the billboard, Ryan, sorry. All right, last call. Look at that, good one. Okay, excellent. As Alex Perlstein mentioned previously, we do have the public survey up and running. We've had, I think, almost 1,000 responses, so really, really good, strong showing up within a week of having it live, so great job. Please, if you haven't taken it, I would encourage you to do so. Some of the questions are similar, but there's some more in-depth questions, and it does the hierarchy. So sometimes if you answer yes, it takes you to a further set of if-then questions that are really helpful as we are developing our planning. And please encourage other people to take it as well. If you're on social media, I would encourage you to share and encourage your friends and neighbors to participate. The more feedback, the better. It's really important. And if you have specific people in mind, it's even better if you reach out to them directly and say, hey, Bob, I really think you would be interested in what we're doing. You are a valuable stakeholder in this community. We'd really like to hear your feedback. So encourage Bob to take the survey as well. And you can see it here on Stevens Point's website, stevenspoint.com/vision survey. And then to wrap up here, we thought we'd just take a little bit of time. We don't want to keep everybody too long, but we want to be available to answer any questions you have. So first of all, thanks for participating this evening. Thank you for answering the questions and having some fun with us as we're doing virtual visioning sessions in this crazy new world. So now we'd like to take some time to answer your questions. I think Kate has been keeping track of the chat, which I've not been able to view. So do you have anything to get us started with, Kate?
There weren't actually a lot of questions. There were a couple of comments that I took note of. We can either dig into here or we can follow up on those later. Mary actually did have one question about tomorrow's session, wondering if that was going to be the same as what we've done here tonight.
Good question. So tomorrow is the same format, so you do not have to join again unless you have other ideas and you'd like to participate again, but it'll be the exact same as tonight. So that's another good point too. If you have people that you think should participate, please reach out to them this evening and say, hey, I really think that you should participate in this, and tell them to join us in the morning. That would be really, really helpful.
And that's 8 a.m. Central Time. And it will be the same access code as this meeting was. We've got a question in terms of the timeline for the project. We, again, we are working with the steering committee, and we kind of base the meetings and the progression of meetings on reports that we're going to present to them and discussions that we're going to have about projects. So they're spaced out about a month apart. So it's got us finishing in late February, early March. But again, at different points along that timeline, we'll have a strategic plan that's been approved by the steering committee, and then we'll move on to the implementation phase. But we've got a timeline that takes us essentially into late winter of next year.
There's a couple of other questions here have popped up. Kevin had a question about whether or not there will be a focus on aging in place for the older population in Stevens Point. I guess just kind of trying to get a sense of where that's falling within the scope of things.
Yeah, I think everything is basically on the table in terms of what the priorities are for the community. And I think the benefit of sessions like this, and I saw a question, are there going to be more public sessions like this? There is one tomorrow at 8 a.m. And then there is the online survey, which we hope people continue to take. And we're also have worked with a core team of folks in Stevens Point that's helping us plan the direct stakeholder input or the individual input. So we're having interviews with a number of people in focus groups. So combined, we really think that we're going to hear from thousands of people. And if aging in place is one of those themes that really comes up as a priority, then we're going to really kind of dive in and see what that looks like in terms of priorities and projects.
Awesome. A question here asking if you might explain how a strategic plan is different than a comprehensive plan.
Sure. Well, a strategic plan, a comprehensive plan is really policy in a lot of ways. It's what government looks like, what looks at to inform investments and spending and regulations. So, really the thought behind having this strategic plan, the timing of it is to really determine what a vision looks like for Stevens Point and what the community really thinks the future priorities are. And then those priorities are going to inform the comprehensive plan. And so that speaks directly to transportation, transit, land use, zoning, education, public safety. So that's where, probably a finer grain level of detail on spending and phasing of projects is going to be incorporated into actual budgeting. So this strategic plan is going to identify some really transformational projects, programs, opportunities that we're going to be focusing on for investment, but it's not going to be as detailed and comprehensive as a comprehensive plan would be, which really has a number of different elements that will directly inform how government operates. So hopefully that's helps answer that question. But the city, I think, is really looking towards this process to provide a vision that will then direct their comprehensive planning.
There's a question here, M. Brown. If I misinterpret this, please weigh in. But the question is how we are working to get perspectives from non-English speakers. If we have any kind of an approach or a method in place for that.
Well, partially we are, again, we've worked with a core team of elected officials and entrepreneurs, and Ryan from the city is on our core team, and that was really part of our discussions from day one, is how can we ensure that this is inclusive. And so first of all, on our steering committee, they've really tried to identify leaders and representatives from different constituencies and Stevens Point to sit on this committee and really participate at every phase of the process. We have the survey is available in a print form, and if enough people say that they are not able to respond to the survey in English, they need it translated, then we'll pursue that as well. We also have interviews and focus groups with those constituencies, minority constituencies, maybe underrepresented communities in Stevens Point. So we've really tried to build that into how we've designed the entire process.
Looks like we've got two more quick questions. Well, this one actually isn't very quick on the face. I don't know how deep we want to get into this one here. It's an equity-based question about engaging with poor and working populations versus the bulk of this work being led, by kind of that middle upper class population.
Well, I think again we're trying to get as many different voices engaged in the process as possible, and both in interviews and focus groups, where again we've really charged the city, and they have responded with incorporating those voices into the direct input. But also we would encourage anyone who wants to have a voice in this process to take the survey or participate in visioning. And again, that's where priorities emerge. And I'll also say that the ultimate goal of processes like this is not necessarily just to create jobs for the sake of jobs. It's about wealth creation, and it's about ensuring that we have an equitable, diverse, inclusive community. And I think that's come out very clearly in the discussion tonight. And ultimately, it's about how you measure success. And so we're going to be, again, working with our steering committee and our core team, and basing it on the feedback we get from the community to determine what are the sort of performance measures that we will use to determine whether this is a successful process. And I think poverty rate and average wage and per capita income and housing affordability could very well be metrics that we use to determine how implementation of this plan is progressing. So I definitely think that we are going to focus on those issues because it's already been clear to us that they're priorities in the community. I will say one thing that I forgot to mention is that the final deliverable of this plan will be a website, and it will be a public website that's accessible to everyone. So it's not going to be a plan that's put on someone's desk or filed on a shelf. It's going to be a living entity that's available online for the community to engage with, and ultimately it will be the roadmap for determining how the plan is implemented.
Great. We have actually one final question. I think it's pretty apropos for a parting curiosity. How does someone get more involved in this process?
Well, what I would say is that on the survey, on the online survey, there's my contact information. I believe there's Ryan's contact information. If not, Ryan, you can contact him on the City of Stevens Point's website, or you can go to alchemycommunities.com, and my information, Libby's information, and Kate's information is there. And please let us know that you want to be more engaged, and we'll talk about what that could look like in terms of ensuring that you are engaged at the level that you want to be. But the fact that you're participating in this visioning and hopefully taking the survey, I think, is the first step. But we absolutely want to ensure that whoever wants to participate in this process is given that opportunity. So please reach out and let us know how you want to participate.
Yep, and we have our website here at the bottom, alchemycommunities.com. We can also drop that into the chat. You can also feel free to connect with Greg Wright with Create too if you have any thoughts. We would all like to be as accessible as possible. All right. Last call for questions.
Thank you all for doing this.
Thank you for
Thank you.
participating. All right, everybody have a wonderful night. Thank you so much. And we look forward to talking to you again in the future.
And anyone who you think would enjoy participating in this visioning session, there's another one tomorrow morning at 8. And there's information on how to access the meeting on the city's website.
All right.
Have a great night.
Thank you.